All right, guys. Hey, welcome to the Search and Seizure Show. I'm Anthony Bandiero. This is my good friend Mike Boone.
Hello, good sir. Hello, everybody out there.
Yeah. So, look, we have a lot to talk about. We just did a show on one of my favorite search and seizure search exceptions, which is the cat out of the bag, which is
It's a great topic, isn't it?
it's a great topic.
Yeah.
It's basically about private searches, right?
Mhm.
Now, here's how this is going to work, right? The rules of engagement here is that we love answering questions live.
Oh,
So, Rick, I think you, our producer over here, he has the board. He can actually type in some comments. You know, we don't really have access to that right here. But if you have anybody who wants to ask a question, just say me. We'll turn on your mic. You don't need a camera. In fact, you can't use your camera because that's just not the way we have this set up. So, I guess the first question before we kind of get into some of these search and seizure questions, does anybody on the following this right now have a live question? If you do,
those are definitely our favorite for sure.
they're definitely favorite. In fact, I think we had a few people. I think Teresa had our social media manager had some people that wanted to come on tonight and ask some questions. So
Ooh, I like it.
Yep. So if you guys have a search and seizure question, please, by all means, say me. I have a question. Actually, Emmanuel, do you have a question from Maryland? Was he? Let me know what he says, Rick. I got to log in here.
Was he on the webinar earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. All right, Emmanuel, turn on Emmanuel's mic. All right, hey, Emmanuel, you there?
Yep.
Hey, buddy. What you got?
All right. This is probably gonna be Maryland specific. I'm not sure if there's any other Maryland officers here. I know my coworkers here just commented, but we have been taught in our
this is the shit show. Anyway, go on.
we have been taught in Maryland, specifically our agency, when we do in service or whatever the case might be, it's been our canine section has always said, hey, apparently I can't find it, but apparently there's a case, a Maryland specific case, that if the dog alerts to the vehicle and whatever, you search the car, you don't find anything, and apparently coming from the canine section, and we've always been taught in service, you'll, based on this Maryland specific case, you can search the driver, not the occupant, the driver, along with that search. Now I'm thinking they're getting confused with that one case. I don't remember the name of it now. Where I think Border Patrol did a scan twice, and then the
Untitled
Chapter, yeah.
Untitled, yes.
Yeah.
So I brought that up, and they were like, "Oh, no, there's a Maryland specific one." So I don't know if they're getting confused with that case, or there is a Maryland specific one I can't find. I'm not sure if you're tracking anything like that.
Okay, so let's talk about it. So, all right, first of all, let's talk about this Anchondo case, because I think that Anchondo is one of the most misunderstood cases out there. Are you very familiar with Anchondo?
People throw out there like, I can search passengers in the car because of dog hits
without
a nexus. And I think that's, we spoke about it before, but yeah, there's some confusion, I think, out there in the realistic application.
What happened on Anchondo?
So it was like you were saying, it was more of a border patrol case.
But
which changes the game.
It does now. It wasn't, but just in fairness, it was not strictly a border search. There was near the border, but yeah.
And from my recollection in Anchondo, I believe he was the only person in the car, and he was the driver.
You're a little low, but let me see this real quick. Yeah, it might be an issue. Hold on a second. Yep. Go on.
Good.
Yep. It was on. Yep. Go on.
Good. Right.
Yeah, it should be a lot better.
So, from my recollection, Anchondo, only driver in the car, correct? Near the
border,
it
was the driver and the
passenger. That's right.
Yep.
Canine alert, and the kind of the premise behind it here is, well, we get to search this driver, and you're gonna have to refresh me on the comment. Anchondo made a comment about
they can find drugs in there.
You're not gonna find drugs in there.
So
which kind of built that nexus that we're gonna talk about between passengers and the car itself.
Yeah. So let me add a few more facts just so we have the dog alerted twice on Anchondo's vehicle while the people are in the car.
Right.
That helps us.
It does.
I mean, I like to say the law likes them in the car, safety likes them out.
Yes.
Then after the two alerts, they get them out of the car, they search the car and find nothing.
Nothing.
Then Anchando, which is the driver,
which is a big part of this.
Which helps because they're presumed to have, more culpability with stuff in the car.
Yeah.
He says, you're not going to find anything in that car. Well, then the border agent said, well, you're telegraphing. That must mean that the drugs are on you. They search him, boom, the drugs are on him. Do you think that in that case, that there was actually a nexus with the driver in that case?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's a few factors. Like you said, the driver, which is inherently more culpable and more responsible for that. The dog hit while he's inside the car, and that comment right there is, well, you're not gonna find him in there, which, like I say, is definitely a link to, or nexus, like you're saying, to me, for sure.
Now, let's apply this to Maryland. Now, I'm fairly familiar with, I'm not gonna say I know all the Maryland cases, but I've definitely taught a K-9 case law class in Maryland. It was actually one of my first, full day classes in there. I had a room full of, veteran canine officers. We talked about these issues. But there is no case in Maryland that strictly says a dog alert on car means you can search the driver. All right, Manuel. So that's the first thing we have to acknowledge. And I can try to look at my iPad here, but they can't say that. They don't say it because they can't say that.
Right.
Because that would go against the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court made it very clear to most people that in a case called Durai, like 1947, that they said that basically they said that the motor vehicle exception, the Carroll Doctrine, does not apply to passengers because they're not containers in a vehicle. Now, they didn't say you can't search occupants, driver, passengers. They just said if you're going to do it, you're going to have a nexus. They didn't use the word nexus, but probable cause, basically.
Right. Yeah, I think they said something in that case. So it doesn't, just being in that car alone doesn't strip away your Fourth Amendment protections away from that search being automatic. They're looking for, like you said, something. Give me something.
So here's the deal. I remember a case out of Maryland where they didn't find drugs in the car. There was, I think the canine alerted, Emmanuel, I think I'm right about this, but the canine alerted like near the driver's door. That was a factor. So it doesn't take much, but drivers are generally easier. But we certainly know there is a Maryland case on this point exactly where an officer in Maryland searched the vehicle just because the dog alerted in the car and the evidence was suppressed because they said that, hey, look, that's not enough, right? They got it right. That's not enough. So Emmanuel, I don't know if you're still there. Is he still there, Rick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my understanding of case law in Maryland. I don't have the case names off the top of my head, but Maryland is a Fourth Amendment state. I mean, it's the judges are restrictive, especially I kind of know where you work, and they get you're near Baltimore and stuff like that. But but at the end of the day, the rule is the rule. The motor vehicle exception does not apply to occupants. If cops want to search the occupants, they have to articulate a nexus. It's not hard. Drivers are easier than passengers, but they both need something. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree, and I've done a bunch of the webinars here and done my own research. I'm like, where are they getting this from? And I think they're getting it confused with Enchando. So I'm gonna bring this up and I'll get back to you. And then maybe we'll get more further guidance. But if it's cool, if you can cite those cases like Enchando, it's hard for me to remember. I could probably look it up. And then the other case you're saying that what my coworker just said, what case did you say was suppressed and after an alert?
Yep. Okay. Gotcha. So let me work on that. And then in the meantime, just to kind of keep this ball, I'm going to try to see if I can, find this while we're talking. Let me see here. So do you have any other questions? I muted him. Okay. Any other, you have any other questions? Is he gone? Well, unmute him. Oh, he's muted. Emmanuel, you have any other questions before we leave? And I'm going to find
that'll be it. I'm probably come up with something else later on, but
yeah, I like your style.
Sounds good. I like it.
Yeah, me too. Okay. All right, buddy. Okay. Anybody else have a question? I'm trying to find these cases here. All right, here. Once you have you looked at those yet today?
Let's see here. First question comes from Keith out of Pennsylvania here. Question is, should passengers have to ID themselves based on a seatbelt violation? We've all been there. Officer conducted a traffic stop and the passenger refuses to provide identification. In the process, officers notice he's not wearing his seatbelt. Is this alone enough to force the passenger to provide ID? And if so, how far does one take it so he complies, i.e. fingerprint him to obtain ID? I feel like this isn't talked about enough, as there's always a split amongst officers about what is right. Well, there's a few things that are going on here. I imagine you got to wear a seatbelt in Pennsylvania. I haven't been back that way in a while, but
no helmets,
no helmets, right?
I don't think they have. Is there a helmet law? I don't think there's a helmet law in Pennsylvania.
Gosh, I don't know. But I imagine you got to wear your seatbelt in the car. So let's just talk about identification of passengers real quick. You know, when you conduct a traffic stop based on a moving violation or PC with a driver committed an infraction, you can't compel your passengers to identify themselves unless they are independent reasonable suspicion about them. There is some sort of probable cause. They're sitting there with a road soda on the lap. You know, they got the beer going on the lap, hanging out there, or they don't have their seatbelt on per the statutes around there. So with that information that they're not wearing a seatbelt, you've got probable cause that they're committing a crime, independent probable cause that this passenger is committing a crime. So with that, yes, they have to identify themselves because of your observation in there. And then he goes on to say, you know, can you force the passenger to provide an identification? If so, how far do we take it? A lot of states have a computer electronic fingerprint identification things out there in the field. I know Pennsylvania does. I know California does for sure. I think, you know, that's reasonable if there's, you know, they're not willing to provide you information here, and you could identify this person without having to take them to jail to get them identified. I think that's at least much more minimally intrusive to do so. But the bottom line, they've got to identify themselves. They're committing a crime.
Well, yeah, I mean, at least a violation, right? I mean, some kind of civil violation.
Yes.
Hey, look, if you can't force a diem, identify them, then let's just get the word out that if you don't want to wear your seatbelt in Pennsylvania, just don't wear it and just don't identify yourself.
There you go. Right.
I mean, let's roll dirty.
Right.
And then let's just tell the cop, hey, you know, you heard the podcast by, you know, Anthony and Mike. They said we don't, you know, have to identify themselves, so beat it. The point is, it's silly. Like, every state has a mechanism to enforce their laws, right?
Correct.
And if you can't write the person a citation, then that's not a get out of jail free card. In fact, that it's a go to jail free card.
Yes, and that would ultimately, if you can't identify this person, that may be the ultimate next step to get them identified. They have to go to jail, and in some places it takes weeks to potentially identify the person if they're not in the system.
Yeah,
so,
you might do like a John Doe type deal.
Yes, and again, that seems like a very less favorable outcome in holding your ground and not identifying yourself for sure.
Yep. All right. So that's easy math right there. Like I say, like that's 1 + 1 = 2, right? I mean, obviously, if you're not wearing your seatbelt in Pennsylvania, there is a law, and I know we have a lot of Pennsylvania cops that watch our stuff. I can't cite the actual statute, but I know that there's a mechanism to force this guy to ID, and if he doesn't ID, he's taking a ride.
Yep.
Okay, just so you know, my friend Mike Brave gave us a great case, Lewis versus State. And in fact, I think that is this, you know, that is actually the case I was thinking out of Maryland, where they said basically the odor of marijuana alone is not allowing you to start searching people. You know, you need a nexus as for them, right?
Right.
Also, I did put in there a Anchondo, right, which is the citation, which is out of 10th Circuit. Steve says not wearing a seatbelt is a secondary violation in Pennsylvania. Well, look. Fine.
Yes.
You get to pull them over for speeding first, and then get the seatbelt.
Right.
But Steve, are we under? Am I misreading this or misunderstanding that there is a mechanism in PA that if you lawfully pull the person over and they are not wearing the passenger's not wearing their seatbelt, push comes to shove that they do not identify, are they getting arrested? Yes or no? Or push comes to shove. At the end of the day, do you think the interpretation is they're getting arrested?
So, of course, like to use that word thwart. You know, can you thwart being cited or arrested by not identifying?
I wish they worked that for speeding violations. I wish I can just thwart my speeding violation. Yeah.
It shouldn't work out like that.
Look, I just, it would be, to me, if you couldn't enforce this law by just identifying yourself, that's going to be internet sensation.
Oh, yeah, right.
What else can you get away with when identifying yourself?
Yeah, all you have to do now is just say no.
Yeah, exactly. Just say no. I mean, what is this, Nancy Reagan? The Nancy Reagan defense?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Jack says straight to jail.
There you go.
Okay. So what else do we have? You see.
Is that do not pass go?
Yeah, you're not passing go on that one. Sounds like you're describing Washington. Washington has decriminalized crime.
Decriminalized crime.
Yeah.
Who's got rid of it?
Oh, you cannot commit a crime in Washington.
Oh, did you see it was somewhere up there where 15 police cars on a training facility got lit on fire?
Get out of here.
Yeah, I didn't see the whole article, but yeah, like just roasted a bunch of police cars in a training parking lot. Believed to be arson.
Yeah. So yeah, that's awesome.
Mm.
Yeah, those are.
But it's been decriminalized.
It's been decriminalized. I mean, you get a trespassing warning. It's probably what they got. All right, let's see what this one's all about. I don't know if I haven't really looked at these yet. I've been teaching all day, but I was approached by the village president and provided with a list of vehicles that he believes are in violation of the village's inoperable vehicle ordinance. This is out of Michigan. I was just wondering to what extent I can check these vehicles for registration if they aren't right in the if they aren't right in the driveway or easily visible from the road. Okay, let's just put this. They're in the driveway. Okay, I'm concerned about curtilage issues, and this has been just as it's being an ordinance violation, nothing more.
So the vehicles are in the driveway or not visible from the driveway?
I think what he's saying here is that the vehicle, you can see it from the driveway.
Oh, okay.
But let's presume the vehicle is on the curtilage.
Okay. Well, let's talk curtilage for just a little second here. When we talk curtilage around here, there's 4 factors that we usually talk about with curtilage. There's a couple that are way a little heavier in my mind than the 4 total.
Right.
The first, adjacency to the home itself. Like how close are we to the home? You know, the case is Florida versus Jardines. Jardines, yes. Correct my pronunciation for sure. And in that case, that's many of you all know it as the Girl Scout rule. You know, that is one of my favorite things when I teach this, that cops don't know this, and the Supreme Court summed it up just like that. They solved the issues with curtilage by saying, if the Girl Scouts could do it, then we can do it. And what they meant by that is, you know, how close are we to the home itself? You know, adjacency, proximity to the home is one of the factors. Another factor, which is also very significant, is what do we use it for? Is it, related to domestic life? Is it a nice hot tub or a built-in barbecue that you threw back there? Well, what do you use it for? You know, is it associated intimately with like what you do? And the other couple factors are, is it enclosed with any kind of gates around it, or is there like actually sight screening? They build up a big old wall so you can't see inside there. So those are some of the factors that we look at when we talk about curtilage. And the top 2, adjacency to the home and use. You don't have to have all 4 though.
That's true. Yep.
And so when we're talking about here, the cops are wanting to see vehicles that are on curtilage. Well, there's some layers in curtilage that especially we talk about here, blue to gold, our color coordinating type thing. We use green, yellow, red, and green is what we talk about as open fields. It's the sidewalks, it's the streets,
they're most of their 50 acres.
Most of their 50 acres, and nowhere near the home, the residence, anything like that. There's no Fourth Amendment protection.
I saw someone gave me a statistic. I'm not sure if it's accurate, but I know the point. The point is well made. They said that 98% of America is open fields.
Wow.
So 90%. I mean, it's maybe, but still though, it's
think about it, right?
Probably true.
You know, there's a lot of this wide open country that's just land still.
Yeah. So 90% of land is not protected by the Fourth Amendment.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: with that percentage in mind, there's only 2% that is protected by the Fourth Amendment.
Land.
Yeah, is curtilage. So then, how is this one of our most violated things we do? Huh? Statistically, it's kind of interesting. Wow.
Yep.
All right. So now their yellow is usually like their driveway or walkway up to the door. How do we get to that to go sell our Girl Scout cookies or go trick-or-treating? And then red we talk about is, real up close to the home, away from the door. You need exigency or urgency to go be there.
Yep.
So let's put the car in the driveway here, right? Car's in the driveway. Can you see it from open fields? Can you see it from the green area?
Yes, you can.
Be my first question. So can you stand there? Then there's nothing more than right to be.
Right to see.
Right to see.
Okay.
You can see it. If you can run the tag from there, you're good.
Okay.
You can see it. But he did bring up a little something in that there. If the car is back on curtilage, maybe down a carport or parked in, somewhere where you wouldn't walk up to the door to go knock on the door. and it's not visible from the street. Well, you don't get to go walk up onto the curtilage, the yellow or the red area, just to go out of your way to see those registration things. That could be an issue for sure. It's protected like the home itself.
So let me share a few observations. One is that I think that code enforcement officers, this is not code enforcement officer, but this is code enforcement activities. I think it's one of the sleeping giants of the Fourth Amendment. And here's why I say that. I've traveled this country extensively, and especially like places like Illinois, they're very aggressive at code enforcement. They have dedicated officers that are like they're just and they're on curtilage all the time. They are inspecting junk vehicles. They are sometimes going into backyards. They are collecting junk property with without the right paperwork and without the right warrants.
Right.
And the point is like I see these guys. I'm like, you got to be careful because these code enforcement officers are not trained like police officers, and police officers are getting it wrong.
Yeah.
And they're way more trained. California has 1,000-hour academies. You're probably how many hours is your?
We're right around there.
It's huge, right?
Yeah,
it's
a little,
massive.
A little higher than that, but yeah.
Yeah, 1,000-hour academies, and we are getting it wrong. So how is this code enforcement officer who probably has 2 weeks of training doing it? That's the first observation. The second observation is that having a law on the books that says you cannot have junk vehicles inoperable, right? That does not supersede the Fourth Amendment. We know that. And then the third thing is that when we have an officer going onto curtilage, even in areas where the Girl Scouts would go, if it is curtilage, going onto the vehicle for the sole curtilage, going onto curtilage for the sole purpose of inspecting that vehicle, not doing a knock and talk, not trying to get them to comply, but just there looking at the VIN, dusting away the dirt, taking the 360 pictures. That's a problem.
It is.
And and what gives these code enforcement officers the right to invade curtilage because of the junk vehicle? Now, I understand it's an eyesore.
Yeah.
The
HOA is not having it.
The HOA is actually the mechanism to handle these issues because they're private.
There you go. Right.
Even though they're controlled by state law usually, but they're still ultimately private. So our utility companies are controlled by state law, but they're not public, public government entities. So the point is going back to the question here, I would be very careful, because a lot of these village presidents, they do not know what curtilage is.
They're just mad because of this car sitting up here.
And they have a constituency, and their constituents are like, hey, what are you gonna do about the junk vehicle problem?
About it here, yeah.
And they're telling their officers to go up on these, places. So if the first question is it curtilage? I will tell you that there are judges out there that do not really think that driveways are curtilage because you can see it from the streets, and it doesn't have any enclosure.
Yeah.
However, I have seen plenty of backyards in this country that are open. They have no fencing. You could see it from a side street. And if you went back there and start messing around, would you be on curtilage?
Yeah.
So why is the man's front, there is, parking your car next to your house, I do believe is associated with domestic life, especially in 2024 and beyond. Having that car is part of, you have to have transportation it's not like a regular parking spot at the apartment complex. It's part of your home.
Yes.
And I think mentally so I'd be very careful here. I would not be going onto people's driveways just to do code enforcement. I would go there to do knock and talks while you're walking past the car. If you want to look at the VIN or you want to, observe something, that's fine, but you should probably leave after that and get a consent or a warrant.
I agree.
I believe this is a civilian, citizen that's kind of asking us, can a citizen informant, victims or witnesses statements provide probable cause to arrest? Actually, that's a great question. That's absolutely a great question.
It is a great question. Well, I'll start off the answer. Yes.
Okay, why?
There's a lot of factors. There's a lot of reasons why. And that's a really good question. This is something that one of our good friends, Jessica Walsh, and I spent a lot of time discussing when it comes to domestic violence cases.
That's the quintessential debate here.
It really is. And when you've got your standard things when it comes to domestic violence. You've got signs of injury. You've got a witness that corroborates the injury. You've got suspect admittance. All these things here. But when it comes down to the he said, she said, the table's not knocked over. There's not a scratch on the face. Nobody else, let's just take the victim involved in this one. There's nobody else saw it to corroborate. You just got he said, she said, and nobody else around.
No evidence. No corroborating evidence.
A story from we'll just stereotype it, the male side
Mhm.
that says nothing happened.
Mhm.
And you've got a female that's there that's crying, hysterical.
Is that cooperation though?
Well,
Isn't that cooperation?
Well, it's her own cooperation though, because the question is, it's her story, right?
Yeah.
The victim story.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'm going with this is what she's telling you, is it enough for probable cause? Is the facts that they're giving you, is it so, is it believable? Is it enough for you to say this is what's happened here? Because the bottom line is, if it's he said, she said, nothing happened, this happened. Well, one of them's telling you the truth, one of them's not. So it's those are our toughest ones to decide that I've always seen here. And what we've talked about is just as some of those factors. What are you going to articulate? How are you going to convince, a judge or a jury that what they're telling you is the probable cause to make that arrest just on a statement alone? And the other part of that question too, they talk about, independent witnesses on things. This is one of those things is inherently, if a person has nothing to do with anything, just a third party driving down the street and they see something happen, is there any reason that we shouldn't believe them?
Yeah.
In most circumstances, it's going to be a no. But there's some credibility inherently in them, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, there might be an axe to grind,
Yeah, that's to consider for sure.
But a witness, independent witness that doesn't even know these people is a lot different than a scorned
Hey, my
wife.
ex-boyfriend is outside yelling at this girl or throwing.
But yeah, but
you got to take that into consideration.
There's a saying about a woman scorned or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's a bad thing.
Yeah. So so how do you get around that? How do you get around the whole, I want to get him in trouble. I want him to, lose his job, and I'm going to call the police and I'm going to accuse him of a crime. I got to tell you, being accused of domestic violence is
a big deal.
It's pretty deal. It can bring down.
Yes. You just have to vet the information. You have to be a good investigator. You have to ask the right questions. You have to figure out how they're related to what's going on, what they saw. And really, a lot of it comes down to being a cop is reading people and, knowing what to ask and looking for seeing their reactions to things. And, is the story they're telling me believable? Is the information
because of some evidence though?
Because there's just something there. Yes.
You think that, let me ask you this, Mike, you've been at this game a long time and you've trained thousands of cops. Do you think that if we had a situation where an officer arrives at a call, and how do we even get this call? Like, we got the call because a neighbor says these people are arguing. So it's not like these people are being throwing each other around. Right. And you arrive on scene, they answer the door, they're both there, and nobody's out of breath. Nobody, as you said, nobody's, and hey, look, they say, we're sorry, we've been fighting about money, and so sorry about our neighbor, we'll calm down. And I'm sorry, back up. That's not where the story was. The husband is saying, sorry, we're just fighting about money. We'll calm down. The wife is like, he pushed me.
Yeah.
And she's calm, but hold on, she's calm.
Yep.
There's no hand marks on her chest. There's no, she didn't say anything like, yeah, he threw me, he pushed me, and I knocked into the picture frame, and the picture's on the floor.
There's no,
it's a complete he said, she said. What are these officers expected to do? And it's also a mandatory arrest in practically every state.
It's the toughest DV calls that you get. And you threw a little piece of the puzzle in that's going to help. At least you've got a neighbor that heard something, talk to them.
But
what did you hear? Did you hear anything that could help with that?
They said just yelling.
Just yelling.
I don't know if an arrest gets made in that case.
It's
you can't arrest people at PC.
You can't just, and this is what is something that frustrates me with DV is, well, we have to make arrests, so somebody's going to jail and we'll let the DAs figure it out. And our friends will yell at us for that.
Yeah.
If probable cause isn't there, it's not there. But you better damn well articulate why you did make the arrest or why you didn't make the arrest.
Let me tell you something, Mike. You are absolutely correct, because here's the deal. First of all, I have to tell you that rarely are you going to have no evidence whatsoever.
Correct. And it's so minute that it's not going to be a little piece of the puzzle where like that glass is on the floor.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense to your story.
Yeah. And so I just want to let you know, like, yes, it is possible that obviously you don't just believe hey, yeah, he pushed me, but you're going to jail.
No.
Okay, that's not
at all what I'm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fair probability the crime has occurred. But also don't be blind to the evidence too, because the thing is, a lot of cops don't like the he said, she said. They want the physical evidence. They want the black eye. They want the broken tooth. They want scratches and so forth. But sometimes you just don't get it. And at the end of the day, is it unlawful to push your spouse and leave no marks? Yes, that's a battery, right?
Correct. It's still
so. And if you have corroborating evidence and circumstantial evidence that probably occurred because she's highly upset. You know, she's never you don't have a history at this household of false reports. She's not highly intoxicated, meaning she's probably, you know, maybe she's making stuff up or doesn't know the facts. I'm not saying you can't arrest because of a highly intoxicated victim, but it's just a factor.
Yes.
She's coherent. She's like tell me a story backwards and forwards. And then there is something about her story. Yeah, he pushed me on the ground. I'm sorry, he pushed me on the bed and I fell off the bed and I grabbed the sheets, and you go into the room, you see the sheets on the ground. That's good evidence.
Absolutely.
And then the other things that we see a lot is the suspect doesn't want to cooperate. And I got to tell you, you see cops actually, they think, oh, well, we can't use it against him because it's a right to remain silent. That is true. You can't hold it against him that he doesn't want to incriminate himself. But at the same time, you are a peace officer, and if he or she does not want to help you in an investigation, you are stuck at that point. They're not dispelling the suspicions. They're not helping dispose, and it's a factor, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's good question. That's kind of right where I go to the DV calls, your most traditional one for sure.
Yeah, like before Devin, get Devin. Is Devin on deck? So get Devin queued up here. But the good example that our friend Jessica uses is that she talks about this case where the wife said the husband pushed her in the kitchen, and she was like making like marinara sauce, and it fell on the floor, and he said he got on top of her and was kind of hitting her. Hey, what do we want to see in that case? Marinara sauce.
Show me the sauce.
Show me the sauce, as the Italians say. You know what I mean? So if we don't see sauce in that kitchen, I'm probably not making an arrest.
It undermines her story.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Ryan, is Devin on, Rick? But Ryan says it just sucks to know that some people lie to get their significant others to jail. I will tell you that is absolutely true. Absolutely true. But I got to tell you, I shouldn't say this, but you have to marry somebody that you trust and that would or be with. If you're marrying a crazy person, husband or wife or what, a boyfriend, girlfriend, I'm sorry, but you are taking a risk. I know people that have definitely been accused of crimes they did not commit, and they went to jail,
and it wrecks
them.
Yeah,
and it's like, man, I'm sorry, but man, you knew this person was not stable,
right?
And you could have been predictable.
Yeah.
All right, Dev, what you got?
Hey, Devin.
Hey, how y'all doing?
What's up, bro?
Good.
Hey, so I just want to run this scenario with y'all. We basically had a call. It was like a parking lot of a mall, and the security team had two individuals detained for they were seen on camera, going into people's cars and putting some of the items into their car, which was parked nearby. And when we got there, they were already detained. We only had one complainant that we were able to locate, and they were like, "Yeah, I'm missing a Adidas backpack." And so we ended up going in the vehicle, and we got the backpack. And in the course of getting that backpack, we found a gun, and the gun was clear and everything. But at that point, with no other complainants, would you think we had enough to keep going for possible evidence of other stolen items, or should we just stop there? We luckily ended up getting consent from him anyway, so we ended up searching it. But I'm just wondering if he was like, "No, you're not searching anymore." At that point, will we have enough?
Okay. Before we answer your question, I just like to know what state you're in.
Texas.
Love Texas. What part of Texas?
Houston area.
I'm gonna be in Houston in a couple weeks teaching DPS.
Nice.
Yeah,
I was down that way a couple months ago. I was out in Bryan. That was great town.
Oh yeah, you're right. We're Craig.
Yeah,
our instructor.
Yep. Texas A&M. That was awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. We have your answer. Mike, cue it up here. What do you got?
All right, so let's go roll through a few things. You got security. They see this crime that's taking place, auto burglary, things have been moved. Then they got these couple people detained associated with this car. So you guys said you got into the car. I'm gonna go with you guys are using the automobile exception, warrantless exception to search that car, right?
Yes, sir.
You have probable cause that there's evidence of these auto burglaries inside that car.
Right. Devin, just out of curiosity, did you see the video or is this purely word from the security guards?
Word from the security guard. I came to the scene later, so I don't know if the other deputies actually saw the video, or it could have just been the security said I saw them putting some items in that car. I can't remember the exact details.
All right. So your PC is going to be based off the security guard's statements, right? Hey, they're telling you
Right.
this is what we saw, and they put items into this car, which, all right.
No, we just talked about witnesses.
Yeah, there you go. Witnesses.
Presumptively reliable.
Yeah. And yeah, especially
a security guard. That's their job.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
All right. So we'll say the search is good of this person's car. They're associated with it. We've got evidence inside that car. Now, the evidence you knew of one complainant so far, right? That their bag was taken, but it's
the Adidas bag.
right. But it sounds like security knew of other possible victims, correct?
Yes,
But they hadn't come forward.
Yeah, my understanding, they just said they saw these guys going into several cars
Multiple vehicles, right?
and they made a stop at that car before they went back in the mall, something like that.
Devin, let me ask you a question, okay? Number
Yes,
one, how just out of curiosity, how are they getting into these vehicles? These happen to be unlocked, or are these smash? There's not smash and grabs, are they? Like,
no, it looks like these were the ones that just go around looking to see the doors unlocked, opportunity. They'll go in and see if there's anything good.
okay. The second question is the security guards are telling, like, say, hey, they know what cars were broken into, right? They're like that red car, that blue car type deal, right?
On a few of the cars, yes, not all of them, but they knew of a few of them.
And and your cops want to go in another car besides the Adidas backpack car. They want to go into another car where the security guard said, yes, they got into that car too, right?
No. So they went into complainant's car, several victims, and then the security said on the way back inside the mall, they made a stop at their car to put the stolen items inside of it.
Okay.
But yeah.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
But hold on. I mean,
Right.
I understand that we're already in that guy's car. We're already in the suspect's car because we found the Adidas backpack.
Right.
But Devin, we want to continue searching that suspect's car for more evidence of the Autobergs, correct?
Yes, sir. But at that point, we already recovered everything that we knew for sure was stolen because we only had one complaint. It was like, hey, it's my gray backpack. We're like, anything else? Like, no, just the backpack. And we found it.
But okay, I guess. But when the security guards, are they saying? Do we have evidence from them? Like, yeah, they also got other evidence from these cars. Like, yeah, we also saw them in that Kia, and they stole something from that. Do we have anything like that?
No, they just said we saw them in other cars, but we don't know if they took anything or not. We just saw them going into multiple cars, and then they went back to their car before they going in the mall. So, and then we had that one lady who was like, "Yeah, my backpack's missing."
They have evidence of. Okay, hey, go ahead, Mike. What do you think?
Yes. So the reason why we're asking you all these kind of follow-up questions is it's going to come down to your scope of your search that you get. So let's just say they saw one car get broken into, and they saw them take one Adidas bag out and they put it into their car. So you are good with the search in there, but your search essentially is the scope is that bag.
Exactly.
What we're asking you is like, okay, if there's multiple vehicles in there and we don't know what else was taken, then our scope is more broad than just the bag we know of. There could be, or there's a fair probability that there's more evidence of other burglaries inside that car, so you get to continue that search.
So let me just tell you, my friend, how I look at it. Okay, when I was asking these questions, I like to take the position of the judge because I like to say, if you came to me first, right, Devin, and he's like, hey, Your Honor, I want to search that Kia in the parking lot. And I say, why do you want to search it? What is your probable cause? Your Honor, we have a security guard saying that these people, this guy was in that car. The security guard is already proven reliable in another case. He also told us that he was in several cars. And he's also said the other vehicle, and that victim said Adidas backpack. Your Honor, we found the Adidas backpack. I would like to know why you couldn't see, why the security guard wouldn't have known that there was something stolen from the vehicle. Like, was it a clear view, or maybe it wasn't a clear view? There was some sight screening. But we go down that path, and I say to myself, all right, as the judge, is there a fair probability that this man, after being in several other vehicles, stole other items? The answer is probably yes. But as a judge, I have one problem. How are we going to know what is his and what is other people's stuff?
Right.
So look, it might be easy if I get into that car and I might have to put my warrant, if I did the warrant, because we don't need a warrant, but the mentality is if you had a warrant, Your Honor, I would look for indicia of other people's stuff, like credit cards in other people's name, female's backpack, something that is, a CPAP machine. In other words, like stuff that is not apparently his.
Right.
But it's not the cleanest case. But I think a judge, because you agree, right? Ultimately,
Yes.
I think a judge will allow you to search for more evidence of that crime.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. What do you think, Devin?
I appreciate that. Also on the gun though, would the gun be enough to say maybe there's possibility of more guns in the car?
But it's not legal to have guns in a car in Texas.
Oh, I'm sorry. The
Oh, the gun
also
was stolen.
Oh,
no, the gun was not stolen, but the two suspects, one was 18, one was 20, so they weren't even allowed to have a handgun at that age.
Mark your days on that one. Apparently, that's unconstitutional. But the answer is yes. If you have a gun in a car, they're prohibited from carrying because of their age. You can look for more guns.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Are we sure that it's illegal in Texas to have? I thought a court case said that 18-year-olds can conceal carry in under constitutional carry in Texas. Do you know about that? Are you still on? You're probably not on, but hey,
No,
Deb, have you heard about that?
They could own handguns. They can't carry it until they're 21, from my understanding.
I thought that got overturned. Anyway,
I haven't heard.
all right. Look, I don't know the case off the top of my head, so it's not worth arguing. But yeah, if you think it's illegal, then we're good to go.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anybody else, Rick? All right. Here, I'm just trying to write somebody on.
Already. Where are we here? Ooh, it's a long one. All right. Should have brought my reading glasses here.
Want me to read it?
Okay. All right. Question out of
Right. You got out of it, Boone.
oh,
Oh, you want to put Ryan on?
let's chat. Yeah.
Yeah, put Ryan on because Boone can't
I
read
can't
good.
read that many words.
Yeah. Boone can't read good
Especially
over
without
here.
my reading glasses these days.
I mean, you look young, but you act old.
I tell you.
What's up, Ryan?
What's up, guys? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Loud and clear. Where are you from, by the way? What state?
Cool. I'm coming up from Northern California.
Nice. What you got?
So my question is about routinely handcuffing people and putting them in the backs of cars.
Yep.
I guess I'm trying to get a better understanding of that and when it starts to cross the line into like arrest-like measures.
Yep. Can you give me a story or not?
Well, I was sent this case, Washington versus Lambert, where it says, under ordinary circumstances, when the police have only reasonable suspicion to make an investigatory stop, using handcuffs or other restraints will violate the Fourth Amendment. And I just feel like there's so many cases where we're just, whether this person maybe just doesn't have a license or something, and they're getting pulled out of the car, handcuffs and stuff in the back. And I guess I'm just trying to think, I don't have a specific case.
No. Yeah. But just context, right? This Lambert case.
Yeah.
Well, look, I've actually I've seen that in California. I saw a in Salina. They had this guy stopped, and he had like a suspended driver's license for like decades.
Decades, yeah.
And they like immediately got him out. When he had he had an open container.
Yes.
So, but anyway, Ryan, they brought him out of the car and they immediately handcuffed him, and then they put him in the back of the car while they searched. And there was two officers on scene.
Right.
And this guy was older. He was not a threat. He wasn't doing anything furtive. And they put him in the back of the police car, and then they searched his vehicle, right, for the open container. And the question was, first of all, let's answer the first question: is putting somebody in handcuffs even a Fourth Amendment issue that has to be justified?
It's the use of force.
It is a use of force.
Yeah.
You sure about that?
Yeah.
What? Is a deadly force, Mike?
No.
You gone soft on me?
No.
But it is a use of force, right?
There's got to be some reasonableness behind it. I mean, like I don't know the word you said initially, but just as a matter of practice,
Routine,
we're just routine, and we're just putting people in handcuffs just because. Well, the courts are pushing back on that.
They should be putting back on it. What if? Look, I got to tell you, look, I'm not a bad person, and my license is legit. But if I had a suspended license and I was taken out of a car and a cop immediately put me in handcuffs and put me in the back of the police car, we're gonna have a problem.
Yeah.
Why are you putting handcuffs on me? I'm not a flight risk. I'm not a fight risk. I'm going to cooperate. I'm a 10 and 2 guy. I'm going to do what you said. I'm not, I'm not looking to cause any problems. Why are you putting me in handcuffs? And
I think you nailed it there. Fight or flight. You know, when
Fight
you
or flight.
really want to boil this whole thing down, fight or flight. Tell me why you think one of those two.
But not
things.
freeze, because I'm not worried about the people that freeze.
Right. That's true.
That's
right?
actually pretty funny. Yeah. I'm the funniest guy I know. So the thing is, so look, Ryan, just to start this conversation off, absolutely putting people in handcuffs is absolutely 100% a Fourth Amendment issue that has to be justified. If people are in handcuffs with no articulation, it is a Fourth Amendment violation. And also, in the Ninth Circuit, which, you know, obviously you're in, it is clearly established that putting people in handcuffs without justification is a violation and can be no qualified immunity. An agency in Nevada had a guy that was put in handcuffs for 15 minutes during a trespassing investigation. There was no reason to believe he was, first of all, the trespassing investigation was already a little thin, but he was put in handcuffs for 15 minutes. The court held de facto arrest. No, you know, it was actually, it wasn't even de facto, it was just a use of force, unlawful, $150,000 that they paid that guy.
Yep. That's
I mean, that's like half what you make in a year. And so that's the first thing. The next thing, Ryan, are you still there? Is putting people in the back of the patrol car. It's the same thing, right? So I will tell you that putting people in the back patrol car is not as bad as handcuffing them, if the cops have a reason, right? A lot of these officers around the country are solo officers. They stop people on, you know, by themselves. They search cars with with consent by themselves and so forth. It's okay to try to ask people to go in the back of the police car. It's okay if you have an issue that you have to resolve, like maybe you, I mean, obviously, if you have a passenger that flees the traffic stop, you can put the driver in the back of the car while you figure things out. That's not, if you have a reason, you should be okay there.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, finally, it's not just a excessive force claim. It's not just, you know, it could also be a de facto arrest issue. But finally, it's a Miranda issue. There is a good argument that needlessly handcuffing a occupant and putting them back in the police car is Miranda-like custody, which is like the person would feel like they're under arrest, and that requires,
especially if you're talking about just whatever speeding and you're in handcuffs and all of a sudden in the back seat of the police car. Like, man,
that's a lot. That's a lot
of jail for that. Huh?
So with that said, Ryan, what's your follow-up questions or feedback?
Yeah, no, that was good. Definitely have a little better understanding now. I feel like one of the rebuttals that like everyone I talk to, they're like, well, officer safety, and they kind of put that blanket officer safety on it. I mean, if you can articulate, you know, having this person even standing by with your partner could cause you some sort of safety risk while your head's in the car, searching the car, you know, I guess I'm trying to think what factors could I articulate, say in a report if I ended up finding something.
Yeah, use the magic word, articulation, right? You know, just explain why you think it's, you know, reasonable to put those handcuffs on somebody. And there's a case with the, I don't know the case, but the guy was suspected of narcotics involvement here. And the courts were good with the handcuffing. They're like, okay, the suspicion of being involved with narcotics activity, and they were good with the initial handcuffing. However, the guy ended up being maybe not as involved as they thought. Absolutely compliant, maybe not any kind of criminal history, all these things here.
He actually consented to searches.
Consent to the search, but they kept him in handcuffs with all these factors. And the courts in that one wanted us to, you know, reassess, reevaluate. Okay, yeah, we were good at putting the hooks on first, but now let's reassess and
let me read it.
Go for it.
So Haynes versus Minahan, 8th Circuit, 2021. No qualified immunity. They basically said officers lacked an objective safety concern, which justified continued, that's what you, right? Handcuffing of detainee following traffic stop based on suspected drug transaction, where detainee shared his name, address, social security number, numerous forms of identification. Detainee was cooperative, polite, relaxed. Officers did not see or find any drugs or weapons. Officers chose not to search detainee's extra pocket or his car, despite consent search, showing that they really probably think it's legit. And officers outnumbered detainee, who neither officer described as a large or imposing figure. Officers experienced no visibility issues, and officers did not seek help, and in fact sent another police cruiser away when the officer arrived. No qualified immunity. My friend Mike Brave said that an unlawful handcuffing case cost an agency $6 million because the guy got nerve damage. Okay, so I guess the point is, Ryan, my point is you can unlawfully handcuff me anytime. Because I can trust me, I can work with some limp wrists, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? I don't really trust me. For $6 million, I'll figure it out.
Figure it out,
I'll
right?
figure it out. Anything else, Ryan?
That was great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Oh, look, even Mike Brave, he put in one of his like studies that actually is like written by him. You know, police chief. This guy's such a stud, man.
Oh wow,
Mike, you don't have to show off. Not you, Mike. This Mike.
Yeah, that's a
that's
a real deal, Mike.
That's a real deal,
Mike. I
Mike.
just go by my last.
You know what? The only thing that you have on Mike Brave is your hair. Everything else, this guy beats you. All right. Anybody else have a question? All right. Let's. What time is it? Okay. Let's do one more question live, and we'll call it a day. But I want to answer this one from an officer in Kansas. All right. That's only because I'm twice his age. All right. I assure you.
Damn, Mike, you're old, Mike. You're twice my age.
Yeah. I assure you, Mike Boone will still not have your credentials when he's twice your age. And neither will I, you know?
No.
Brave. Brave is just a great.
Yes.
He's a good friend of mine. You know, I reach out to him so often, like, hey, I need your help. And he has a CV. Right? How many pages? So CV is like a resume, right?
Yeah, your bio.
120 pages. Okay.
That's impressive, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. Love this guy. You have a fan on here from your academy.
Oh,
I'm not gonna say the name because
nope,
that's not.
I know who you're talking about. So thanks for watching.
That's awesome. But hopefully tomorrow, if you're at work, you know.
Yes, I will be there tomorrow.
All right. So, officer says, I'm in the auto theft unit with the Kansas Highway Patrol. Awesome, KHP, right? And we are frequently tasked with identifying vehicles using law enforcement means, confidential numbers, right? Typically, when we are doing this, we have a customer who had asked us to identify the vehicle so that they can title and register in Kansas. Okay. Consensual encounter. Am I missing something here? Let's kind of continue, see if I can figure this out.
Okay.
Other times we have assigned search warrants allowing us to identify any and all vehicles. Oh, this must be like a junkyard or something like that. Any and all vehicle parts, so we are good there as well. All right.
Okay.
My question is, let's say we are asked to identify a burned vehicle involved in an accident.
Okay.
Do we need a warrant to locate the confidential number? So this is where those hidden bins are, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought he was doing.
Frame stamping.
The frame stamping and stuff. This topic came up recently in a meeting. Some say no, we are only identifying the vehicle to help identify the occupants and make notification to the next of kin. So this must be like a death, right, et cetera. Should it be a fatality accident? Others believe that we don't have consent or a warrant and that we need one or the other. Further, on the rare occasion that the public VIN is missing on a vehicle that we come into contact with, where it is not a consensual and/or warrant, would we need to get one to identify the vehicle at that point? It's again kind of confusing the way it's written here, but we need a warrant, I guess. My take is that we have probable cause to identify that vehicle using law enforcement means, which is looking for hidden, right? Whether intentionally or not, but the removal of the public VIN is a prosecutable offense. Okay. The next question is, we are using an OBD reader. All right. Look, when I say I speak cop, I'm not sure I speak this type of cop. This is a little like, because I think what's happening here is he's writing in a way that probably vehicle crime units can understand what's going on here.
Okay.
But here's what I understand from the question, okay? And you can answer it. Number one, let's say we have a vehicle that's involved in a fatality and it's burned to a crisp. Okay. The VIN on the dashboard is incinerated. Can we look for that stamped VIN without a consent or without a warrant?
Yeah. I mean, well, there's one maybe an evidence of a crime. So, that's we'll talk about the. It's no longer mobility, but there's some other factors in that.
Okay.
Maybe it's evidence of a crime. Evidence of that crime in there, but we need to figure out who those people are too, and who maybe the registration in that vehicle or that VIN will lead us to identifying the people inside there. So that might even just almost a community caretaking component to that.
There are so many reasons that the court's going to uphold this.
Yeah.
They may uphold it on a probable cause because it is a fatal investigation. Yeah. Would a judge allow you to go get for your investigation, would they allow you to get the VIN?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, community caretaking is, you're right. Is there maybe a public interest in notifying next of kin?
Yeah.
Yes. Maybe this is probably not true. I wouldn't go here because I have some arson cases where it wasn't true, but you know, maybe the vehicle is no longer privacy interest because it's burned to a crisp. I've seen people, you know, burn their own house down and the cops search it, try to argue that didn't work.
Was it
Next,
origin of fire?
yeah,
type
well, there might be,
thing,
but still,
something? Yeah,
no, no, it wasn't an origin fire thing.
Mhm.
The next thing is, look, the person who's probably the victim here is probably the owner of the car. That's who's probably burned to a crisp. No standing by the suspect who did it. And then finally, special needs doctrine. Have you seen my webinar on crash investigations?
Yes.
So remember I talked about like getting the paper for the car, you know, remember there was a case on checking the brakes on the fatality?
Oh, yes.
The case in Massachusetts. So what happened there was, you know, Quackenbush. I think it was the case was called Quackenbush. But the idea was that, you know, there's a lot of there's legislature laws that want you to inspect vehicles for, you know, damages or for crashes and cause of vehicle, you know, and part of that VIN is part of the report.
Yes.
So there's a government interest in identifying that vehicle so we can isolate and determine like why crashes happen. You know, we want to know the vehicle make and model. We want to know what it is and so forth. So that's not going to be a problem. I've never heard of a case, and I can't think of a case where the court say, nope, you need a warrant to look for a VIN for this vehicle. No way. The next thing is we are using an OBD reader where we plug into the vehicle. You know what that is, right? Plugs into the dashboard.
Like the smog kind of deal.
Yep. The reader we use only gives us identification of component parts. It does not get into infotainment system or pull any data other than the VIN numbers. I don't feel like this is any different than crawling under the vehicle to look for a number on the frame. Plugging into electrical system to me isn't any different and shouldn't be treated as such. What do you think about that?
Interesting. There's a couple things that come to mind here, and I'm just, you know, thinking about, you know, search or not. And, you know, first thing that jumps out of my mind is Jones, the GPS case. So we're touching this car, and we're getting some kind of information from it.
It's a search.
Regardless if it's infotainment, so it's search. And then he's comparing it to crawling underneath the car to gather the same information. Well, that's, you know, a little bit of a, I'd be offended a little bit. Somebody out there laying underneath my car, walked out there. There's,
right.
You know, maybe there's a little bit of a
well, you would be if the vehicle was in your drive or not your driveway, but even in front of your house. But this is not a house situation. This is a serious vehicle accident.
Oh, we're still going with the same vehicle thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, this is not just.
I thought this was isolated from it.
No, this is the same deal.
Well, yeah, same thing. Then, yeah, same kind of thing.
We're in the same boat.
Yeah, same talking about. I was just thinking if separate from that, if we're using this to get, I don't know, VIN identification some other way outside of that, there's, you know.
Well, look, I can tell you that so when these OBD cases started, they started in the early 1990s, right? The airbag module. That was an airbag module. I don't know if they had OBD back then, but I think the OBD is like early 90s, but anyway, or mid 90s. And so I know for a fact that pretty much all courts were upholding this because the OBD, you know, didn't really the airbag module, and I think they got it from the OBD, but I don't want somebody to go, it wasn't from that. It was actually from a telephone cord, you know, whatever it was. So a serial port. But anyway, the point was that the courts upheld it. They said that there was no expectation of privacy in this airbag module, right? It was just breaking data. It was how much a gas pedal was, you know.
What if you're at fault in an accident that caused this burning car?
Well, then it goes back to the special needs doctrine.
But you're the car that caused the burning car. So they're using this OBD to get that.
Good. That's the motor vehicle exception.
Well, there you go.
Right. Yeah. And so especially if they knew that you're at fault.
Then that's your evidence. Yeah.
But then it started falling apart when the early 2000s, when cars started having way more information. They started having infotainment systems. The text messages were, you know, started with text messages, and then it had the GPS. And then it had like your Teslas that have cameras and so forth. So here's the deal. At the end of the day,
I need to be rebooted.
Exactly.
How much? It's like on the airbag type stuff. How long? How much? Is there a timeline for how much information is stored in those?
5 seconds, I think.
Okay, so
about 5. It's not much.
Not much.
And that's why they just didn't feel offended by it. You know,
that makes sense.
They didn't have Jones back then, which is you're trespassing for the tour. But I think they acknowledged that it was a Fourth Amendment issue. It was lawful under these various doctrines, not community caretaking, but too much, but motor vehicle exception and crash investigations.
Okay.
Now, once vehicles started turning into iPhones,
Yeah.
like the Tesla, now the courts are like, wait, doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Because you're now just getting it's basically
The
like
data dump.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so here's the answer. Push comes to shove, if a judge is intellectually honest with the case law, they should uphold this. Because if you put this cop back in time 20 years, they could do it.
Yes.
However, a lot of the modern case law is basically saying that we shouldn't be downloading cars because a lot of them do have this extra information. But if he doesn't get that information or use it, then it shouldn't hurt him.
Right, which he did say is separate from that. So,
but I think that
interesting. Yeah.
But still, I will tell you that if I was the commander of the vehicle homicide unit or something like that, I would just say, look, let's just get a warrant.
Yeah.
It's a I hate to say boilerplate because you're not supposed to really think about that. They're individualized.
Yeah.
But it's a boilerplate warrant. It's very easy to get. The car's not going anywhere. It's probably gonna be towed anyway. They have their ways to not, to reset that computer. They don't start it. They just drag it onto a tow truck.
Right.
Bring it back to the impound lot. Get a warrant.
Makes
All
sense. Makes sense.
Guys, that's all we got for you. Mike, it's always been here. Cheers, right?
Cheers, my friend.
It's always a pleasure, having the Search and Seizure show with you.
Well, I was glad to be here.
Yep. Life is good though. Everything else.
And cheers to the other thing that we won't talk about.
Yeah. Well, that maybe one day we'll share your good news. Okay.
Yes.
I know we don't want to say too much now because your family, after they learn you won the lottery, they really want to hound. Oh shit! I'm sorry. It wasn't.
Damn it.
Damn it. Not again.
I may not tell you won the lottery, but there may be signs of it, right?
All right, my
Did you
friends.
see my new hovercraft outside?
Exactly. Speaking of Tesla, you got the Plaid edition. Guys, thank you so much. Teresa, our amazing social media manager, is reminding you guys to please subscribe to our social media.
Yes.
We can't do it without you. We put this is time away from his family. It's definitely time away from my family and so forth, and doing other things that, so please show some love on social media. That's all I got for you. Hopefully we'll see you next week.
Take care, everybody.
Take care, guys.